All right, Awesemo, here we go. It is NFL Live Before Lock Sunday Night Football. We have the New York Football Giants taking on the Cleveland Browns. I did not get to see the last part of these afternoon games here, Kyle. I lost track of time. I was writing an article, and then it was dinner time. So I had taco pie, actually, for dinner. So that was kind of interesting. It is about like it sounds. It's tacos in a pie form. So it's pretty good. Think of it like a quiche. But my wife made homemade guacamole. It was awesome. How are you doing here?
Not bad. It was an interesting slate for a few reasons. Like I think if you look at like the high scoring quarterbacks, you would think, oh, well, this was just one of the highest scoring slates of the year. Every quarterback got over 30. And not every, but I think Kyler, Hurts, Matt Ryan got close, Ryan Tannehill. And then the flex scoring actually hasn't been immense because Ryan Tannehill punched 2 in. I believe Kyler Murray rushed 1 in. Jalen Hurts, I don't know. I think he rushed 1 as well. And obviously, I'm guessing both Kyler and Hurts have also rushed for a ton of yards. So although they have a ton of scoring, it hasn't really trickled down to any specific weapons, or at least as much as maybe we would expect. So, I had a good week, or I guess it's not over yet. We still have the Saints-Chiefs game going on for a little bit here. Looks like it's going to be a profitable week. It's something that I played a lot of Matt Ryan, and these final few drives from Jalen Hurts and Kyler Murray have put the nail in the coffin for me thinking anything. But, can't complain. It'll be a profitable week. And if those sustain you till you get to the big tournament wins, I mean, that's good enough.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm having an okay afternoon here. Had a very nice morning on the early slate, but like you, we'll have to wait and see what's going on with some of these games. I do want to remind you guys, we have a new feature here at Awesemo. It's something that's kind of handy. It's sort of in beta mode. We're if you have questions or improvements or anything like that, but it is our NFL depth charts here. So what it does is it comes in and puts the inactive. It has some news attached to it. It's just kind of nice in an organized fashion. Now it only focuses on the inactives for the skill position players and such. And some of them, we're still working on it because I see Daniel Jones listed as the second guy, second quarterback, even though we know he's inactive. But it's a nice way to get everything at once and just help you scan across and see some quick news. So that's something that we released, I think, about 10 days ago. So we're working soft launch. It'll be fully functional and up to snuff next season. But just wanted to let you guys know that it's out there. And it's something that's kind of helpful. So talking about our inactives tonight. Oops, I don't want to open Word. I want to open my Word documents. Our inactives for tonight are from the Cleveland side, wide receiver Marvin Hall, which is no surprise. And then on the defensive side, we've got safety Andrew Sendejo, cornerback Robert Jackson, linebacker Mac Wilson, defensive end Joe Jackson, and then guard Wyatt Teller from the Giants. Of course, Daniel Jones is out. Dante Pettis, not active. Remember, 49ers cut him, and he was claimed off waivers, so he is with the Giants. And then they're missing a few of their offensive linemen and such. Tonight, we've got, No House Advantage, of course, is our sponsor. We'll talk about them in one of our segments here. If you want to hit that thumbs up, we do appreciate it. It helps us out as we battle that pesky YouTube algorithm. Also, if you'd like to subscribe, we have 44,400 subscribers right now. We're marching towards 50,000. We want to get it by the end of the year. That's 10 days left basically. But if we got like 500 people a day, we'd get there. So you'll want to subscribe because here's why. We have content running nonstop. We have NBA regular season starts, wait for it, starts on Tuesday. Here we are. We're off and running with that. So that's something that you'll want to check out. And then, of course, we have all sorts of shows going on throughout the day. We're kicking it off again tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. That will be with Matt Kajeski. It will be with Dave Loughran and Alex Brown, former Chicago Bear defensive end. They will be talking about Monday Night Football. Then we get into the Rewind show, a couple strategy shows, golf, et cetera, ad nauseum. And here we are. And starting Tuesday, of course, there will be NBA strategy shows. So definitely want to check that out. Be a subscriber, hit that notification bell. You'll get a little alert when we go live. Or if you don't want to do that and you still subscribe, when you go to YouTube as your homepage, you'll just see us lit up on the side there with the little red dot next to our channel when we are going live. All right, let's get back to the fun. Oh, guys want to get some NBA content? Use the promo code Caruso Get you for $1. You get all NBA for the first week. That promo will last through the 29th. So if you were to sign up later, then tomorrow or the next day, you'll still get the 7 days, but definitely check that out. And then also go to Awesemo_COM, look at our pinned tweet. I'm going to drop that link into the chat. It explains how you can go review our podcast. You leave a 5-star review, follow those instructions, and then one person will win a full all access pass for the season for NBA. It's $400 value. All you got to do is just go leave a 5-star review. It's not that bad. Definitely check that out. And that's for the Awesemo Podcast Network. Everything except for Live Before Lock shows does come out on those various feeds. All right, deep breath. Let's talk a little bit here about the game. We've got Cleveland, pesky, kind of working on the playoffs, or a playoff life, shall we say. We've got some intriguing matchups here. We've got the Giants that are just an absolute unmitigated disaster on this. The Browns have about a 25-point implied total. I can't believe they lost their last game. They put up 42 points and lost. They put up 42 points on Baltimore and lost 47-42. 22 points in the fourth quarter. I went to bed. After I went to bed, there were 3 touchdowns, a field goal, and a safety that were scored after I went to bed. That was called a very busy fourth quarter for both teams. So on this one, we've got the Giants defense finally kind of rounding into form, of course, as everything else is falling apart here. They are 18th in the DVOA. However, in their last 2 games, I think that's a little more indicative of where they stand. They've kept Russell Wilson and Kyler Murray in check. Those two averaged 250 yards with only 2 touchdowns. They did rush 92 yards combined on 20 carries, but they kind of shut them down. I bring all this up because Baker Mayfield comes out as on DraftKings, one of our 3 most highly projected players. On FanDuel, he is the most highly projected player. He's bottom five for the entire week. Baker Mayfield, what do we have?
So I think it kind of for Baker has often depended on what kind of game we get, not from Baker, literally just what happens in the game, specifically as it pertains to the other team. In a game where the Ravens go out and hang, 47 on them, and Baker gets the opportunity to throw, then it's probably going to be an interesting game from Baker, to say the least, because he has been in spots very efficient. Like, he has multiple games with 4 more touchdowns. I believe he has a 4 touchdown, like a 5 touchdown game. It hasn't been a bad season from Baker. It's been a not that often used season from Baker. The Browns run at one of the 5 heaviest rates whenever they, like, specifically run plays, run at one of the 5 most run heavy rates whenever they have a lead at all, 1 point or more. And I think we can expect that pretty much whenever they have a lead, that they will not really change their game plan. If you have a lead, why would you change what's working? Because passing is typically better. But from a coach's perspective, they seem to have embraced the philosophy of, like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If we have a lead and running the football well, we're not going to change anything about it. They run at like a 60 or 65% clip in that scenario. So for me, I think it depends what we get from, and I kind of have a feeling I might know what we'll get from the other side, is that the offense for the other side probably won't be that good. So it does just in the median shape up to be a game where if Baker doesn't throw a touchdown or 2 really in the first half, like, he's getting shut down in the second half because they're probably winning. They probably got a Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt touchdown on the ground, and then they just keep pounding it. So I think if you play Baker, you just kind of have to know that there is a very realistic chance he goes out and throws the ball 17 times for 120 and no scores. You really need the other side, like maybe a Darius Slayton, to splash at least 1 or 2 and keep this game modestly competitive.
All right, let's look at the over/under here for Baker. This is so we're coming in, depending on which site you're looking at, it somewhere between 224 and probably 227 for his over/under passing yards. Awesemo has him projected for 215. Would you want to take the under on this one?
Yeah, I'll take the under. I think it makes sense both in our projections. And I mean, like, I'm going to say the things that are baked into our projections. I'm not trying to double count it or anything. But yeah, it's a game where they're expected to win. They don't pass when they're winning. And it's not like the Browns aren't this, I don't think of them quite to the level that we think of, Ryan Tannehill and the Titans, or potentially the Vikings, where they're like a very aggressive downfield heavy team that has like incredible playmakers, like, two incredible playmakers, honestly, two incredible playmakers for both, if you ever watch Corey Davis. But we think of the Vikings having one of the better young downfield threats in Justin Jefferson. I don't really see the Browns playing that style. So I think it's low ceiling and low volatility, where at least with someone like Tannehill or Kirk Cousins, I think there's a bit of heightened volatility in their game because they've been among the most efficient passers in the league and they have like actual credible deep threats. For me, I think of this team, even if we get an efficient game from Baker, it probably happens with a lot of like few incompletions, lots of PPR points to Jarvis Landry, and more likely just a general quiet game as a whole. So yeah, I'm probably pretty confident in betting the under there, especially backed by our projections.
All right. And then if you guys want to play some prop betting and you don't have that yet in your state, you might have No House Advantage, sponsor of the show. Their games are based off of player props. So it's very exciting. You play against each other, not the house. So it's the same format we're used to playing. You're playing against other gamers. They have head-to-heads, 50-50s, GPPs, all that fun stuff. But what you do is they put out, depending on the contest, 25 to 50 different questions, depending on the size of the slate or if it's a single game slate, et cetera. And what you do is you choose the different props that you would like, depending on the format. Somewhere between 5 and 7 questions will be asked. You rank those with confidence ratings. Most likely to occur, you put that as your highest, and so on all the way down. But this is peer-to-peer. So again, you're not playing the house, so there is no house advantage. That's why they call it that. The best part of that, you can join for free today. You can check out their site. They have a very nice interface and all that fun stuff, so you can check that out. If you decide to deposit, use the promo code Awesemo. They will match you up to your first $20. Refer a friend, get another $5 when they make their first deposit. Definitely check that out. It is a lot of fun. All right, running backs. We got a couple of them here. So Cleveland is very, very content just to run the ball. The Giants do have the 14th ranked rushing DVOA. So they're also allowing the 9th most fantasy points to running backs this season. So part of that is a function of, there's not as many points going to running backs. So 9th doesn't really mean quite what it did a couple years ago. But they are just, playing from behind a lot. So teams are getting up there in volume. So it's not the efficiency that's getting them, it's the volume. So in their last 3 games, they're allowing 18 carries for 70 yards on the ground, 7.7 targets for 6 receptions, 43 yards, just 1 rushing touchdown from there. But again, they played Arizona and they played the Seahawks and they more or less kept them in check. So I want to point that out. Now, let's talk Cleveland. Nick Chubb, absolutely phenomenal since returning from injury. In his 5 games, he's averaging just shy of 20 carries per game, 109.2 yards. He has 5 rushing touchdowns, just 1.4 targets per game, but he is kicking in another 15 yards per game. So that's another 1.5 there from the passing game. Kareem Hunt on the other side, he must be the pass catching back. No, he's actually the other running back because Cleveland likes to run the ball a lot. 12.4 carries in this same stretch, just shy of 50 yards per game. He is getting 3.4 targets per game, 2.6 receptions, just shy of 30 yards, contributing through the air on that one. I'm okay playing both of them in this one. I'm not even setting any rules that if one's captain, I can't play the other. I think that their prices are appropriate on both sides. I like them. I like Hunt a little bit better. On DraftKings, you get more of a savings there, but I don't mind him on FanDuel whatsoever. So I like both these guys. How are you feeling about the running game for Cleveland?
Yeah, I mean, I do think it's like you said, we used to, at least, I think in the middle, early part of the year, we thought of Kareem Hunt as the pass catching back who just happened to get also a decent amount of rushing work. Whenever the Browns are winning, they don't throw at all, and they just run so much that it really does not matter that you are splitting the backfield. Let's just call it 2/3, 1/3, or maybe 60-40 is maybe a little closer to the correct ratio. It doesn't matter because sure, they get a smaller piece of the pie, and honestly, both running backs in the Brown side of this game will have a far lower market share of their team's carries than Wayne Gallman on the other side. But Wayne Gallman is very unlikely to get to run on a 10-point lead, whereas that is very feasible for the Browns. So whenever the Browns have a lead, I do think it's viable to play both running backs, even if, like you said, I think it's viable. And maybe depending on its ownership, I mean, this is something that Like, you'd have to have very detailed ownership to know, but intuitively, I don't think people would be willing, or at least people would be less willing to play both running backs, especially one at captain. We know that the Browns are going to run on 60+% of their plays if they have a lead. If they maintain a lead basically from, the first whistle to the final whistle, that is a ton of rushing volume. It is feasible, even if not incredibly likely, it's feasible that both running backs score and even that both go for, 100 yards or something like that. So because that's in the range of outcomes, and like you said, I think Hunt is pretty reasonably priced on DraftKings, especially if he just has a few catches, it's beneficial, or at least more so on DraftKings. I think because his price is attainable, you can play Nick Chubb plus Kareem Hunt. I think if they were both priced a little, like if Hunt specifically was priced a little higher coming off of a really good game versus the Ravens, you might be getting into a territory where it just can't happen. But because of the Browns' tendencies, I think it's very possible, and maybe even under-owned, that you play either one. Kareem Hunt captain, Nick Chubb in the flex. For me, I'm going with Nick Chubb at captain. I'm just going to take the guy who's getting significantly more work for the most part. And like the top stack tool has him is easily the largest advantage of the slate, ownership versus odds of being the top player. So I think that is one of maybe not my core strategies, but something I'm going to try and be over the field on is the double Cleveland running back.
All right. I am. And that's one thing that even on the 2-game slates, a lot of times, and we've talked about it a lot. We've talked about it with Buffalo. We've talked about it with quite a few teams. We are setting rules, or maybe not excluding the players on the Showdown slate, but knocking off, I was going to say whacking, but knocking off 20 to 30% of their projected scores. Yeah, Jordan just came racing back. Do I need to cut the clip and put it on Twitter? No, Jordan. No, you don't. But we've got no reason to do that in this particular game. Looking over here on the passing side of things here, and I'm just trying to upload my projections again because it did not take, because Kadero Hodge is active.
Yep.
So as is Hooper, and I wanted to, let's just look at Cleveland specifically. I wanted to see what we were putting them in as, because that's going to, all right. So they're on DK, they're third. This is for the primetime slate. So I'm just finishing up my lineups there. But proportionally, you'll understand why I'm going to say this. 3.5 points DK. That's full PPR scoring. 3.5 for Hodge. 2.3 for Donovan Peoples-Jones. Just doesn't feel good at all. So I wanted to see where those guys are coming in. We've got Jarvis Landry and Rashad Higgins that are perfectly fine. I mentioned the last time we had Cleveland on the show where I said Rashad Higgins is the perfect league average receiver, but I don't mind playing him at all, because with the absence of Odell Beckham Jr., he is kind of getting a little bit more of a workload here. So that's where I am on those guys. I kind of have to wave off Hodge and Donovan Peoples-Jones. They're, combined, we're projecting him for 6 points. That's not great. Landry's the really interesting guy. So in his last 3 games, getting decent, well, one of them was really cold, but decent weather. It wasn't raining and it wasn't incredibly windy. But Landry in his last 3 games has 30 targets for 257 yards and 2 touchdowns. On DraftKings, I think he's a viable captain. It's going to be him, Chubb, and Mayfield. I don't feel as strongly about that on FanDuel because I don't know where his touchdown equity really is. I would say, 20% chance of a touchdown, maybe 25, just because the guys, they'd rather, if they're going to be in close enough for him to really work his magic on a shorter route or whatever, they're going to give it to the running backs.
Yeah, I agree. I think 20 even might be a little high. 20% chance he might be a little high.
17 and a half.
I think we can split the difference at 17 and a half. I'll take that. But it's like you said, we're especially on FanDuel, his reception value and potential to get 100 yards doesn't really serve us as much value. Whereas, on DraftKings, that extra 3 points, the extra, let's say he catches 8 passes, those extra 4 points on those receptions versus FanDuel might actually make the difference between being in the optimal lineup and not. So I agree. I'm not really playing Landry as someone who I think can get touchdown equity. I do think he's interesting because on DraftKings specifically, you don't necessarily need the touchdowns. If the Browns go out and dominate, even if it happens on the ground, he's a guy who can not score the touchdowns and still catch 8 or 9 passes and not even hit the 100-yard bonus. If it is a really low-scoring game, you just might not need it because you are going to have a lot of players worth playing, honestly. And especially if it's a low-scoring game that the Browns end up winning, obviously, you can play him and Chubb at captain without Baker Mayfield. I think that's going to be the interesting way to play. I mean, it's interesting any slate. I think this one is maybe a little more viable. We saw One of the DK Metcalf captain, no Russell Wilson lineup, I think was really interesting a few weeks ago on Showdown. And I think looking for like negative or non-correlations like that are possible to happen, but are very likely to not be duped essentially and not used at all. I think that's an interesting large field tournament strategy. And I think Landry, given his potential to rack up specifically catches that don't help Baker Mayfield score any points specifically in any way, is really interesting. So I don't dislike Landry. I think I'm going to be slightly over the field on him in the flex. I don't have a ton of love, like you said, from in captain, because captain, you probably do need that touchdown equity even on DK. I think I'm more targeting the running backs on both sides of the ball, honestly. But I think they just carry more potential to score touchdowns than someone like Landry.
All right. Moving into the tight ends here makes it a little interesting. Austin Hooper missed the last game with the sore neck. He's in. Njoku's been dealing with a knee injury. He's in. Harrison Bryant also in. There's three of them. There's not a lot of passing to go around. You could. I mean, in the last game we liked Njoku because on the Showdown slate, because he was just $1,000 on DraftKings. Everybody's kind of priced where they should be now, so there's really no opportunities there. I don't have a lean for any of them. I don't feel great about any of them. I'm glad Evan Ingram is playing. He's someone that I want to look to. I want to say he got, I think, 8 targets the last time Colt McCoy started, and Colt spoiling it. But for what he's played this year and his game and a half last year, McCoy's averaging 4.4 yards per attempt.
Dude,
that's not, or per completion, I think is what it is. So
anyway. No, it's yards per attempt. I know that.
Yards per attempt. Yeah, it's 4.4. The ADOT. This is like Golden Tate, Evan Ingram time because anybody that's more than 5 yards away from the line of scrimmage is not going to get a pass. But back to this, I don't feel good about any of these guys. I don't have a lean, mix and match, but you're trying to scratch off a lottery ticket, in my opinion. When we get to the defense, and then I'll let you add anything that you like here. So Cleveland has 34 sacks on the season. Colt McCoy, started out his career with them. Has every journeyman quarterback done a turn with either the Jets or the Browns? It certainly feels that way.
You could probably lump maybe like a Miami in there. They've got at least a handful of those veterans as well.
Yeah, it's crazy. So Colt McCoy's in. Giants have allowed at least 3 sacks in 5 of their last 7 games. They gave up 8 to the Cardinals last week. New York is turning the ball over 1.5 times a game, and the Browns are 5th in the league with 20 turnovers. So the Browns defense, sneaky effective at this point. I'm good with them. I was telling Kyle before the show, if you're playing DK tiers, this is the first time they've put defenses in there. They have the Steelers defense in tier 3 and the Browns defense in tier 5. Never seen that before, but here we are. It is 2020. Anything you want to add about the tight ends or the Cleveland Browns defense there?
No, I think we can safely assume, or at least I think our best assumption should be that Austin Hooper takes over as a number one who splits a little bit of work, and also they play 2 tight ends. You can have other tight ends who basically just function as like pseudo receivers or blockers, really. So I think we can assume he's the number 1 tight end, but that role wasn't awfully valuable like before he was injured. And like you said, the only reason we were targeting Njoku last week was a price play. Now Hooper, I believe he's a little over 4K, isn't an egregious play. If he goes out and catches a touchdown, it's good enough. I think that could get you there. I think his odds of doing that are pretty small enough that I'm personally not betting on him. I don't think he's a bad play. Looking at the prices of Harrison Bryant and David Njoku, both in that mid to low 3K range, don't really think there's any reason other than contrarianship, and I think there are better ways to get there, to go to those guys. They're just priced up as if, they were priced up probably because there was a chance Hooper didn't play. He does play. Their prices aren't really correct, honestly. They're both like 1,000 or less kind of guys who are priced at 3,000. So I think the opportunity cost of playing those guys is a little bit too high for my liking, given what I can spend that money on elsewise. And defense makes sense. I have an inclination that facing Colt McCoy, Brown's defense is going to be very popular. I think in terms of the overall play volume we can expect, this should be a pretty boring game. Like all things considered, it's like a 44.5 total, I think. Not a ton of overall fantasy excitement, but that kind of points towards defense, sure. But if the defense are going to be owned at that high level, you can always point to the fact that defenses do have upside that is tethered to overall play volume and passing volume. If this game is 2 teams running back and forth, you don't really have a great upside argument for the Browns defense, other than that Colt McCoy is probably one of the worst starting quarterbacks in the NFL right now. If he only attempts 24 passes, your odds of getting the touchdown on those passes aren't great. I'd rather have a team in a game that I think is going to be bad in throwing the ball a ton. I don't think they're going to throw the ball an immense amount with Colt McCoy. Defense has been good. The Browns run a lot, so I don't think we can expect them. I mean, maybe they break some long ones, but they play a style of game that leads you to find yourself in a 44.5 total. All of this long way of saying, I just think the field is really going to be excited to play Browns defense against McCoy. Anytime you get that type of scenario where if they don't go out and score a touchdown, they're probably not in the optimal lineup, I think that's probably a fade on my end.
All right, I see we've got a few people talking about some sweats coming down to the wire here. Looks like the Eagles ended up losing 26-33. You got Jalen Hurts. I just want to point this out. I know it's not today's game. Second start, 338 yards, 3 touchdowns, 11 for 63 on the ground with a touchdown. Kyler Murray, guess his shoulder's feeling better. 8 for 30 rushing with a touchdown, 406 yards, 3 touchdowns passing.
Yeah, I saw Hurts top 40 on DK, I think.
And then we've got, so let's see, New Orleans just scored a touchdown.
Oh, it was just a little Jordan Humphrey.
Yeah, let's kick the extra point. They're down by 3. You've got Mahomes, who is averaging like 360 yards a game or whatever over his last 5. Only has 240 with 3 touchdowns. Breeze looked horrible, incomplete, first six or 7 passes. He's got 3 touchdowns now. Everybody's darling Alvin Kamara, not quite getting there. He did get a receiving touchdown though. So kind of interesting the way this is shaking out. So hopefully you guys are having a good afternoon as well. All right, back to the game at hand. The running backs. All right. So Wayne Coleman, not exciting. You remember who he replaced? Who replaced Saquon Barkley? Devontae Freeman. Did you remember Devontae Freeman was actually a Giant for a hot minute this year? Or had you forgotten that already?
I was trying to think of who would have been the backup running back on the night that Saquon went down, because Gallman was inactive. So he sort of replaced Devonta Freeman, who replaced Dion Lewis, who replaced Saquon Barkley.
Yes.
I assuming Dion Lewis was the backup to Barkley that night.
I think that's what it was. We've got Elijah Penny, who's going to be on the field about 10% of the time. You got Alfred Morris, who is active tonight. He's going to be on the field about 10% of the time. Dion Lewis somehow had a rushing touchdown last week. By the way, he has 5 or fewer touches or targets combined in his last 11 games. Zippy for the volume there. Not excited by him at all. Gallman, however, has 70 combined yards in 4 of his last 5 and touchdowns in 6 of his last 7. That's pretty solid. We need a touchdown for him to get there, but he's kind of the only guy scoring at the moment. So in the 4 games since Devontae Freeman went down, Gallman has 70 carries. Morris has 23. Dion Lewis has 7. So think about that. In his last 4 games, he has 7 carries. Elijah Penny has 2. Targets are Gallman with 11, Lewis with 5, Morris with 1. So again, that's 12 total touches for Lewis in those last 4 games. He's not exciting. So the only guy I like is Wayne Gallman. I don't hate Dion Lewis, but we're projecting him for about 3 points, I think. So you need that lucky touchdown. He just got it. Is he going to get that again? I don't know. And then so obviously Gallman, very, very intriguing. Wide receiver, this is the turnaround point that you mentioned with McCoy. Not going to throw it a lot. In his last this season, he has about a game and a half worth of action. He played on about 90 snaps, so it works out to about a game and a half. He is 21 for 35 with 154 yards. Most of today's quarterbacks call that a half. That's what he's done in a game and a half. The Giants have attempted more than 30 passes twice in their last 8 games. So there's not going to be any volume there. Cleveland's going to be happy to run. The clock's going to be spinning on this one. So we have Golden Tate. I was semi-joking, but this is a Golden Tate game and Evan Ingram, because the passes just aren't going to be going downfield. You have Slayton, who's kind of the downfield receiver, and Sterling Shepard is kind of the mid-range guy. Those guys are interchangeable. That's just sort of how they've been working out this year. But I don't think Colt McCoy is going to be throwing it deep. The last time when McCoy started, this was against the Seahawks, when the Giants upset the Seahawks in Seattle. Tate had 4 targets, Slayton had 1, Shepard had 6, and 9 went to Ingram. So for me, it's Ingram and Tate. I don't feel good about this. So we've crossed off 2.5, almost 3 positions, and there's nothing exciting. What do you like about the New York Football Giants?
So I think Wayne Gallman, like if you ignore his name, is kind of exciting. Like you were saying, he's scoring touchdowns. He's getting yards from scrimmage. He's averaging, I believe, over his past 5 or 6 games, 15 carries and 2 receptions per game. Like that is a lot of touches for a running back. We're talking about plays on like this like slow, boring team, but like he gets the ball a pretty frequent amount. He's also dominating their red zone work, unsurprisingly, with how he's dominating the overall work. So as far as like on the off chance, not the off chance, it's a 50-50 or whatever, close to it enough that they come out here and cover the spread and keep this, cleanly within a touchdown, like a field goal game throughout. That's all you need for Gallman to be probably in the like optimal lineup and potentially the optimal captain. So I do think Gallman will be very interesting for me. I just think when you get a player who can dominate the entirety of the offense, essentially, given how little they want to pass and how much he's scored and how well he's played, I don't really care about his name. I don't care if he's Wayne Gallman, Devonta Freeman, Saquon Barkley, whomever. I'm going to at least take some cracks on that guy, So I think Gallman is a very solid captain, even a good flex play as well. And he has a little bit of receiving potential, enough receiving potential that I think even if they do end up playing at a bit of a deficit, he's not drawing dead. And I think the Giants are a team that probably doesn't care too much if they're playing at a deficit. As long as they're not getting killed, they probably still will try and run the football. Alfred Morris, at his price, I believe is like $1,000. He's averaging like 5 or 6 carries a game over his past 5 or 6 games. It's not nothing. It's not that much either. He's seen a little under a third. It's like between a quarter and a third of the red zone work in that same time span. Again, it's not nothing. It's not a lot. It's a tournament play, and that's about it. As far as the receivers go, I don't know. I'm a little interested in these Darius Slayton air yards. Like you said, he's been used as a deep threat. It can go back on any different game, but he's getting he's leading the team in air yards over the past 3 or 4 games. I think it's since Golden Tate came back from his team imposed suspension or whatever. That was came back in week 10. Since then, he leads the team in air yards, and he's like 3rd or 4th. He's 3rd in the receivers in receiving yards. So that tells me that 1, his quarterback play hasn't been very good and nothing's changing there. But 2, there's a lot of randomness that goes into his deep shots. If he randomly gets an accurate deep shot, it'd be like, what a crazy event that he gets an accurate deep shot from Colt McCoy. Well, if that does happen, I don't think many people are going to be playing him for the reason of he's getting deep targets from Colt McCoy, and you'll probably be making a lot of money if he connects on that for a touchdown. Are his odds of doing that great? No, they're not very good. But I do think he's an interesting tournament play. I'm not sure if he even makes it to a really notable captain spot for me, though. I think the best case scenario is that if you're playing a Landry Mayfield stack, you go out and get one long Slayton touchdown as your run back, and he keeps the game close enough to get Baker Mayfield throwing 25 times at a minimum or something. So I have a little interest in him. Golden Tate's price is actually really I just think he's kind of underpriced. There's not a ton of difference between any of these guys. They mix in these 6, 7, 8 target games with such unknowable frequencies and equal frequencies that I don't think he should be that far off from anyone else. I think in terms of value, he's actually one of the better values on the slate outright.
As terrifying as that is. All right, we got about 900 people watching, and we only have 80 likes. Let's get some likes in here. Get us up to 125, and I'll drop some $1 DK head-to-heads out there. I got crushed last night. Operation Fade. Aaron Jones was not a success. I regret to inform you, but oops. But we're back at it tonight. So get us up to 125, and I'll put some head-to-heads out here. We'll have some fun with that. Let me get back here to my notes page. Defense. Cleveland has not allowed a sack in their last 2 games. They've allowed just 6 in their last 7. Now, part of this is because they run the ball, but part of it is they have a decent offensive line. They got a lot of draft capital in their offensive line, and on their defense, it's starting to sort of pay dividends. They're looking like a real football team. We'll have to see what Baker Mayfield can do. The magic from a couple seasons ago isn't quite there, but he's gotten a little bit better. Who knew that you just didn't need Odell Beckham Jr. to have a good game. Now, revenge for Odell Beckham Jr., right?
Unfortunately.
Are they playing for something? No, they're probably not. But we always have to point that out. So the Giants have or the Browns have only 14 turnovers. The Giants have 20, which is in the top third of the league, 20 takeaways. But that's not a lot. That's just about 1.5 per game. They do have 33 sacks. That's also in the top of the league. But I'm not really excited about the Giants defense. Let's talk our plays. So I think, who is your number one play of the night?
Mine's going to be Nick Chubb at captain. He'll be popular, probably one of the 2 most popular. But, based on how we expect this game to go, based on the top Showdown plays tool, it looks like overall Nick Chubb is just clearly the best captain on the slate. And people recognize him as one of the better captains, but maybe not even the best captain. I'm not sure he'll be owned at the highest rate. And I think he deserves to be owned at a far superior rate to anyone else.
Look at that. We got to 150. We doubled our likes with that. I better get these head-to-heads out there. I'm putting them out now. By the time you guys hear this, you will get them. So I agree. Chubb is number 1 for me. Number 2, I'm going to have to go with Baker Mayfield. Number 3 is going to be Landry. I think all of them are viable captain options on DK. I'm not as excited about Landry on FanDuel. I probably need to get about to 10 lineups before I wasn't using Chubb or Mayfield. How are you feeling about FanDuel?
Yeah, I think Wayne Gallman probably is the player who moves the most because of the FanDuel scoring. I think on DraftKings, he's okay. He's interesting. I'll probably be above the field on him at flex and maybe even at captain, but I don't love him. I do think, though, when you look at how the FanDuel scoring shifts things, he's a little more interesting there. I think he probably still slots in behind Chubb, behind Mayfield. I do think there's a solid argument, though, to push him ahead of someone like Landry. And I don't know. I really struggle to get interested in Colt McCoy, even though he's probably maybe a low-owned starting quarterback. I don't know how low-owned he's going to get, but if he did get low-owned, you'd have to adjust for, even if you don't like him, his ownership's going to be good. I don't think his ownership gets to that tipping point yet for me. So I would say Wayne Gallman may be the number 3 option on FanDuel.
Yes. I would concur with that. All right, I just got those lineups in there for you guys. It's username Emac. There are 10 of them. Have fun with those. Rules for tonight, and then we'll talk more about the player pool. We'll get some questions. We have 22 minutes, guys. And gals. Because I know Melissa's watching. She's gonna. I think we're tied now. I had a comeback, but she had a nice little takedown last night. She made a few $100 on the 2-game slate. So she's riding high on this one. She
took even, my money.
Yeah, she even came after me in Slack and said, "I hope you post some head-to-heads tonight. I'm ready." It's like, oh, geez. We've created a nice little rivalry here. So with regards to the rules tonight, I don't really feel the need to set any because it's the Giants. I mean, it's more about what volume I'm going to get. What the player ownership is going to be for me, because the kickers and defense, I'm fine. I'll play 2 of those combined player pool. The Cleveland tight ends, I only want to play 1 of. I don't want to play. There's like 4 Giants that I want to play. That's it, and then everybody else is going to be Cleveland, which is pretty funny. Now, are you ready for this? We got a super chat here from Daniel Jones. I'm not joking.
Daniel Jones
says, yes, Daniel Jones. Hey, man, sorry you're inactive tonight, but thanks for the super chat. He says, I owe you guys for the last 2 weeks. Came in second last Sunday night and had a top 3 for the Chiefs-Bronco game 2 weeks ago. Appreciate you guys. Well, thank you. And you did all the hard work. You chose the players. We were just throwing out some information here. Hopefully we give you guys a nice little idea, but hit that thumbs up. We like that. We like the super chat. Very nice as well. And then if you guys want to do want to subscribe, that would help us greatly, because we're trying to get to that 50,000. Last time we hit a milestone subscribers, we gave away, I may be spilling the beans. I think we're going to give away like a 1-year pass, but we'll see. But it's 50,000. We'll get Tom JK to hook us up with that. All right, back to kind of the rankings here of the players. Kickers, I think, come in next. We need the savings. And then the other one is going to be Rashad Higgins. After that, it's like close your eyes and pick somebody. I don't have strong takes on anybody. This is a weird game.
Yeah, it is a weird game, especially because I typically at their prices wouldn't be super inclined to play two running backs from the same team. But man, the Browns just love running the damn ball so much that it is not unfeasible to play two running backs from the same team, even when that is like the bulk of the salary you're going to spend. Yeah, Higgins, I think his price has come up to a point where I think it exceeds his role. I'd rather just go to someone like Jarvis Landry or even look at a receiver on the other side. He's not he's not a terrible play. I think showdown slates are so random that someone being overpriced can be an interesting way to find low ownership on them. It's all about where that breaking point is. For me, he doesn't really fall on the right side of that breaking point. I think his price is just too much to pay. I think there are better ways to spend that money, and you can still get low or medium owned guys in the context of a showdown slate. Kickers, no strong preferences. Maybe you can use them to save salary. I think generally unless it's an egregious price or something, I'm not going to have a strong take on kickers, although this is going to be probably a lower scoring slate. So that is at least like a modest argument to move towards kickers who have capped upsides in the sense of kickers, barring a trick play, have no access to touchdowns. Even defenses have some access to touchdowns, however unlikely it is. I don't even think we've had a kicker score a touchdown this year. I'd be shocked if we somehow got it. The closest was the holder for Miami scored a touchdown that got called back because they had like a illegal motion or something strange. So there's no way that a kicker has a real ceiling performance outside of a 5 to 6 touchdown, 5 to 6 field goal game. You might not quite need that on this slate. So I do think that kickers are, even as much as I don't really care about them too much. Sorry, all the kickers out there, don't care too much. I think in a low scoring slate like this, any way you can save salary and have a player who's liable to go out and put up 9 or 10 points is at least interesting. I think I might end up being at least with the field, if not maybe a little over the field on kickers.
Caden Smith, $400 on DraftKings. Does that have any value to you?
I think at the level of tournaments I'm playing, which are, typically the single entry and 3 max stuff, you're not getting up to 50 and 100,000 entries. Probably not. But I do think in the largest levels of tournaments, we could see them run a little bit of different, non-3 receiver. You can get a little 2 tight end set or whatever. So it's worth considering. I think if you're building 150 in the Millie Maker, which I'm not sure how many, or, we'll call it 150 in the 50 cent, because that's something that's actually, probably attainable for most of the listeners or whatever. I wouldn't rule him out. I think if you get a handful of percentage points of him, that's okay. It's going to be definitely some lineups that are likely to be unique, less likely to be duplicated. I'm not like boosting his projection to get more of him or anything, but he's fine. He can go out and catch a few passes.
Does Colt McCoy get double-digit fantasy points today?
Oh boy, that's tough. I'm going to say no. I don't have a lot of Colt McCoy, so I guess I have already said no with my money. I'll just say it now on the show.
All right, I am going to hit crunch here and see what happens with my – I'm not setting any limits. I've decided there are no groups. I haven't done this before in quite some time. But I did go in and change my projection or my caps, and then I'm also setting randomness. So I ran this without randomness just to see what would happen. I've got 2 unique players, but I said nothing else. So 26% Browns defense, 2%. Oh, Jordan, the head-to-heads, you got to go look for them. You got to go to the DK lobby. And they probably already got scooped. So when you go to the DK lobby, the $1 head-to-heads, you can just search on Emac and find them. They said last night they went almost instantaneously. So that's what happens when you have like 1,000 people watching. So Evan Ingram, I don't know. Evan Ingram, do you think he gets double-digit fantasy points tonight? Full PPR.
I'll still say no. I don't think the Giants go and put up a lot of points. And yeah, man, they are brutal. Like he could go out and catch
5 for 50.
I was going to say 7. I was going to say 7 for 29, and he wouldn't technically get double. And that wouldn't surprise me. Like I think he does have like a 10 target, 30-yard game this season or something. So the way he's used is like maybe a little more interesting because the slate might not feature a lot of touchdowns, and that's not why you're playing him in the first place. But just overall, like all things held constant, I really just maybe this is a bias. Maybe I should just like only focus on the projections a little more. I do struggle when there's Darius Slayton on the slate to ever move to someone like Evan Ingram.
All right, I've now made 100 lineups here. 30% Chubb at captain, 12% Mayfield, I've got 20% Wayne Gallman. That might be a little high, but I'm going to roll the dice on it. Jarvis Landry, 6%. That's half the field. Colt McCoy, 4%. That's half the field. I feel good about this. Let's see here. We've got 14 minutes to go. Would you put anybody, would you put the Cleveland defense, would you utilize the Cleveland defense as your captain on DK?
I mean, I think you can. We like looking at our top showdown tool. They're almost perfectly matched up, their ownership and their odds of being the top scorer. You adjust for the salary, maybe it gives you a slight advantage. It's just like I talked about with them at Flex. I think people recognize the obvious mismatch of any competent defense getting to face off against Colt McCoy. So interceptions on like nearly 3% of his pass attempts. Like we said, he's averaging 4.4 yards per attempt. He's not good. He's definitely not good. But people recognize that. So I think I would probably try and allocate my the limited amount of lineups I'm playing. I'd probably try and allocate my captain spots to the players or groups of players, if you count defenses, who are much more of a mismatch. I think they're like appropriately owned. I think their ownership is efficient. I'm looking for the inefficient ownerships, which I think like Chubb could be one of them. Wayne Gallman, another one like I've talked about. I think I can gain more leverage by playing those guys and getting different elsewhere. Also, when you play the Browns, you still have to, especially depending on your tournament size, focus on, okay, so let's say the Browns lead the slate in scoring. I still have to build a lineup outside of the Browns that is going to be unique, and I've given myself all the salary in the world. So I'm still probably leaving a ton of salary on the table. You have to really focus on, well, if I play the cheap captain, I still can't just go, let's jam in all the good plays. Either you can, and you're probably, even if they're 4% owned, probably still going to dupe someone. And at that point, you probably should be building lineups in a different way.
Would you play both kickers in a lineup?
Yeah, totally. I think that's fine.
All right.
Who wouldn't be surprised if this game ended like 19-9?
It could be an ugly one. Golden Tate captain, that might be a bit much. Is Devontae Freeman playing? I will say this. There are probably some players tonight that will score less points than Devontae Freeman. Who's going negative? It's possible. Golden Tate catches a 2-yard pass and fumbles, and that's his only play of the game. That could happen. This is just going to be a wild one here. Let's see. Golden Tate. Dearness Johnson. Yeah, there are more players projected for less than 4 fantasy points than I think I've ever seen before in a game. And think about this. Wasn't this Dallas 49ers game flexed out of this one? The Sunday night? Was that this? I think it was this game.
It might have been. That game wasn't very good either. I watched that game. It wasn't very good.
You're kidding. The Dallas 49ers game today?
Dallas looked like trash.
Scoring. Dallas won.
I don't care if Dallas.
The fact that CeeDee Lamb returned the onside kick for a touchdown, and then Nick Mullins got hurt, and
Beathard bombs to Kendrick
Beathard comes in and throws a Hail Mary to tell me that ending of the game wouldn't have just swung everything in Showdown.
Okay, well, I guess from a Showdown context, that would have been mind-bending to see that end to the game. Like, that is like, 290-plus percentile. We saw the onside kick recovery for a touchdown from, I think, A.J. Brown once. I don't know. I can't even remember seeing it all last year. And from it to come from a notable fantasy player, not like, a backup tight end who no one was playing or whatever, from it to come from someone who would have been highly owned like CeeDee Lamb. And then, and would the backup quarterback have worked? We got the backup quarterback narrative, the small chance of that hitting. Would it have happened a second time if you had played C.J. Beathard? I think for 100 yards and a touchdown, maybe it could have. But, we had that with Mariota.
Yeah. So, we don't talk about it regular football. It's 2020. We view everything through the lens of DFS for this one. I see some people saying that the Boss Man had a nice day. I'll have to go check that out. I didn't see who won the Millies. I know it wasn't me. I did not have a good day. I did not have a good day in that contest, but let's do carrying the one. Made about $1,400 today, it looks like. Nice. I'll take it. Yesterday was was not a great day. I only lost like $200, but that's okay. So we'll take this one. All right, I am going to upload my lineups here. So one moment, if you would like to vamp for us. What player are you terrified of not having tonight?
Player I am terrified of not.
Because for me, it was Aaron Jones yesterday, and that did not work out.
It's so hard to tell in this game because like I don't see there being a lot of scoring. So it's going to be the player who goes out and scores 16. And normally that's something where you're like, oh, well, I could have made I could have had a 14-point player there and it didn't kill me. It stopped me from winning. But I don't know. I guess it'll probably end up being Sterling Shepard. I don't have very much of really any of the pass catchers on the Giants side outside of Darius Slayton, because I think his upside to ownership ratio, if you wanted to quantify it that way, is probably the best. So it'd probably be someone like Sterling Shepard or Evan Ingram as well. I have a decent amount of takes. He's cheap, and I think he's just as viable as the other guys, but less expensive. So yeah, it's either Evan Ingram or Sterling Shepard. It would be hilarious if Colt McCoy just went out like great captain game. Because I mean, the one thing you could spin in a narrative to place Colt McCoy at captain is that he could, if he throws 3 touchdowns, it's not a team that he can't go out and throw it to 3 different guys because of how much they split it up. I don't think he's going to throw 3 touchdowns, but it would be funny to see him do that and also split it between guys and be the optimal captain, because I am not playing for that.
Oh, all right. We've got 8 minutes to go. My lineups are now uploaded. I am closing out some files here. Let's see. It says Emac. I know Emac won. He's in tiers with me. Yeah, I had a nice little day in the tiers competition there. That worked out well for me. I played my best lineup, had everybody from the early game, and I was sweating it out. Looks like I put up a 233 or somewhere 240. So it was pretty high. I won the early slate and I won a few tickets because there's milli makers. There's 6 milli makers in 8 days or something like that. Mm-hmm. So I picked up a couple tickets in that and some other stuff. So pretty cool on that one. Again, I don't play the giant nosebleed contests, but look, now I want to see what my currently winning versus my in play.
I'm trying to find. So I assume people are saying Alex is having a good day because this is World Championship weekend.
Oh, I bet that's what it is. Can you guys?
No, it's wait. Oh, congratulations! We can see it now.
All right. Well, there you go. So I got 1,100 in play. I'm winning 2,200, and then I already cleared out another couple $100 from this morning. So there we go. Fingers crossed that holds. All right. What else do we want to do here? Which backup QB is more likely to get in?
I don't even know who the hell
I can't name backup QBs. Is. That's frightening.
I think Case Keenum is the Browns' backup QB. I honestly have no clue.
He is. Funny enough, I looked that up yesterday. When I was writing my article here. Let me go. We'll look at.
I have our projection.
Clayton Thorson, allegedly.
That's not a real person. I don't believe that.
That's who's in the player pool. I don't know if he's really the person.
That's not a real person. They were like, we don't know who it is. Let's make up a name.
All right. Let's see. A weird flex. Oh, I hope I wasn't trying to flex. I was just saying, I'm a grinder. I'm a ham and egger on these things. So I've got my little system set up. I never have to redeposit. Knocking on wood. It's been a long time. Been like, I don't know, 6 years since I've had to put in a deposit. But you gotta play within your means, play within your bankroll. Listen to what Kyle says. We play different size contests for different reasons. While we don't have the nosebleed, gigantic prize pools, it's nice to win. A couple grand a year, 10 grand a year, whatever it might be, and steadily chip away at that target, as opposed to living and dying. Like Adam says, last calendar year, he said I had 3 big days that made me incredibly profitable. The rest of the time I got my teeth kicked in.
Oh, that's
my teeth kicked in.
Not too far off from how I play. There's a handful of single entry stuff that I think is winnable. I don't know about even once a year, but once every year or two. Well, like if you're playing like the play action, which I do play, because like I think you get a lot of soft action in that, and like I think it's called the first down, just the $1.20 max. I think you get soft action in those. Your time horizon for realizing it is like, I mean, it's normally like 500,000 people in the play action. You divide that by 20 because you get 20 lineups.
Mm-hmm.
You divide that by 17. You're still looking at like decades before you realistically would hit. And if you even multiply, give yourself like a 10x multiplier, you're 10x better than the average player. You're literally at like 5 to 10 years, I think. If you're like, it might even be like 100x. If you're 100 times better than the average player, you're looking at 5 to 10 years to realize your value. And no one is 100x, I would imagine, in the field. So yeah, if you're playing these contests with 50, 100,000 people, you just have to understand that you can be a winning player and you may never win one of these contests. Like I don't ever plan on winning the play action, but I think there's enough soft money in there that is plus EV to do it, even if that expected value won't be realized, I don't know, till I die or whatever.
All right. Let's see. Reminder, guys. Just seeing if there's any questions. There's not much to talk about. These aren't the best. Where did Alex finish in the championship? I don't know. I was looking for a link. I did not find it.
I couldn't find a link.
I do know Papa Gates took first and second in the main event Millionaire Maker, that was the $5 million contest on DK. It was $1,500 to get in. He took first and second. Rinpack, cool $100,000. He took fifth. Just saying, you guys got to check out what Rimpack's doing. That $100,000, he has now had 6 $100,000 days in the last year. Sharp kid. Yeah, it's the DFS isn't his full-time thing. He's in grad school right now. So shout out to our friend Brian. Let me see here. Here is over on DK. We've got Rinpack got 8th in the $10 Millie Maker for $12,500. That's a very top-heavy contest.
I know that doesn't sound. I was just like, $12,500 doesn't seem like a lot to a contest that I know pays out $1 million. That's why it's so GD hard to realize your value. Is that like, well, it's like, what is it? You said it was $10, so it's $1,500 to enter to max it. He didn't even make up a year's worth of entering it. You have to bring down first or second or third. Not that, like, I'm not saying he did anything wrong. That is incredible that he did it. And it just goes to show you how hard it is to realize your value playing these contests. And it's okay. Like, you can be like a plus EV player in those. Just understand that, man, it's going to take you a long time.
My captain tonight, if you were playing me in the head-to-head, that's what they're asking me. It's Nick Chubb. I'm playing Chubb, Mayfield, Landry, Ingram, and both kickers. I'm assuming other people are going to land on that too, but that's where I am, at least $400. By the time you're hearing this, you'll have about a minute to pivot off of that. Yeah, I met Rinpack, I guess it's like 3.5 years ago now, and he was an undergrad student at University of Michigan. And he's like, yeah, I really like this DFS stuff. I kind of want to get into it. And his bankroll was like, I don't know, $1,000 or whatever it was at the time. Yeah. He's big player now. He's on the rocket ship. I am but a figment in his imagination at this point. It's his world. We're just living it. Let's see. Colt McCoy. Oh, no, that was his. He had Head Chopper took down the $1 million on FanDuel. I think that's his second $1 million. And he also had one of the biggest heartbreaking losses in the Masters. He was winning the $1 million, and I forget, that was 3 or 4 years ago. Whoever melted down in the last 2 holes knocked him out. It was heartbreaking.
He won it last year with a Fitz lineup early in the year, I think. It's like week 1 or 2, maybe. Yeah, he took down the $1 million on FanDuel.
Yeah, he's very, very good at this stuff. All right, God, we're at lock. So that gets us there. It was, sorry, this game just wasn't exciting. Tomorrow night, well, it may not be as exciting either. We've got the Cleveland Browns. We've got Pittsburgh coming in there. Pittsburgh favored by 14 points on the road. We are projecting right now the Pittsburgh defense on DraftKings for 11.6 points. Just putting that out there. That's an awful lot. So you'll want to tune in tomorrow and see what we've got going on. Please do hit that like button, and let me call up the schedule here and let you guys know what is going on. So at 10 a.m., we're starting off with Matt Gajewski Laffy and, of course, Alex Brown will be breaking down the Monday Night Football action. At 11, you're going to get Laffy, Josh, and Adam with the NFL Strategy Show. And then at 6:45, we have Live Before Lock. You're going to get a half hour with Adam and Josh. And then you are going to get Kyle and myself for Live Before Lock, or Live Before Lock after Live Before Lock. Yeah, that's too much to say. All right. So with that, we're going to get on out of here. You can follow Kyle on Twitter at Kyle Tweets here. I am at Emac DFS. It is Awesemo_COM. Go check out that pinned tweet. See how you can win one full year of Awesemo NBA content. You want to jump in, guarantee yourself a week, use the promo code Caruso. Get that first week for just $1. With that, gamers, good luck. No pizza? Taco pie. Our new code word. Last night it was air fried chicken. Chicken wings.